Reporting from Ukraine update, Russian forces are pushing along three axes of attack with most activity in the north, but activities continues in the south as well. In the north, Russia has shifted from relying heavily on tanks to using more infantry due to losses from Ukrainian drones, artillery, and logistical issues. In the south near Kherson, Russia is still able to use heavy armor more freely due to better logistics, but Ukrainian mines have slowed their advances. Russia has lost a lot of equipment to Ukrainian drones and artillery. They've had trouble clearing mines without specialized vehicles. Russia has tried using kamikaze drones and mine-clearing tanks, but these have had limited success reaching Ukrainian positions due to mines and mud. Despite months of activities, Russia has not advanced beyond the first tree lines captured early in their offensive in the south. If Ukraine can maintain surveillance, artillery fire, and minefields, prospects for further Russian advances in the south remain low. The United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense latest intelligence update on Ukraine, November 20, 2023. On November 7th, wives of deployed Russian soldiers protested in Teatralnya Square in Moscow, demanding troop rotations from the front lines in Ukraine. This was likely the first public street protest in Moscow since the invasion began. The protesters unfurled banners demanding their husbands be rotated away from the front lines after apparently indefinitely extended combat deployments. The protest highlighted growing perception that the lack of troop rotation is unsustainable, both for the troops and their relatives. The protest was broken up by police within minutes, but is notable as troops' relatives have so far been prevented from becoming an influential lobbying force. The Institute for the Study of War Russian Offensive Campaign Assessment, Finland closed 4 border checkpoints with Russia on November 18 due to an influx of around 300 asylum seekers since September, mainly from Iraq, Yemen, Somalia, and Syria. Crossings increased sharply recently to 89 in 2 days from 91 total since mid-July. Dozens of migrants arrived at closed Finnish border crossings on November 18 and gathered around campfires in sub-zero temperatures. Finland is considering closing the entire Russia border overnight on November 21st. Finnish authorities believe Russian border guards are escorting or transporting migrants to the Finnish border. The Finnish government said there are indications foreign authorities or other actors have helped people illegally cross. The head of a Finnish checkpoint said Russian guards pushed migrants to the Finnish side, then closed the Russian barriers behind them. It's unlikely migrants would remain at the border in freezing temperatures after being denied entry without Russia's involvement. Russia appears to be employing a known hybrid warfare tactic to artificially create a migrant crisis on the Finnish border. The Institute for the Study of War key takeaways today. Russia's apparent migrant crisis tactics on the Finland border echo what it did on the Poland border in 2021, likely aimed at destabilizing NATO. Russian military bloggers expressed anger at worsening Russia-Armenia relations as Armenia distances from Russia and makes Western agreements. Russia's defense ministry reportedly started public recruitment for an Africa Corps to take over Wagner Group operations in Africa after failed attempts to recruit Wagner personnel. The Russian Strelkov movement backed Gherkin's announcement to run in the 2024 Russian presidential election. Chechen leader Kadyrov continues efforts to distinguish himself, infringing on boundaries between regional leaders and Putin. The U.S. announced a new security assistance package for Ukraine during Defense Secretary Austin's key visit. Russian forces conducted offensives along several axes in eastern and southern Ukraine, making marginal gains in some areas. A Russian region and occupation officials plan to jointly provide drones to Russian forces. Ukraine successfully returned 45 children Russia deported in the past 6 months. Ukraine's Armed Forces General Staff update. It was day 635 of Russia's attempted full-scale invasion of Ukraine. There were 54 combat engagements over the past day. Russia launched airstrikes, multiple launch rocket system attacks, artillery and mortar attacks across various parts of Ukraine, resulting in civilian casualties and infrastructure damage. In eastern and southern Ukraine, the situation remains active. Ukrainian forces continue to hold ground on the southern bank of the Dnipro River in Kherson and are still inflicting losses on Russian forces. Russia unsuccessfully tried to advance its positions in various parts of eastern Ukraine, including near Kupiansk, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Marinka, but its assaults were repelled by Ukrainian defenders. Over 20 settlements were struck by Russian artillery and mortars across various axes like Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Zaporizhia. Cities like Kherson were also shelled. Ukraine continues its own offensive operation near Melitopol and offensive actions near Bakhmut, inflicting losses on Russian manpower and equipment. The Ukrainian Air Force also conducted 2 airstrikes against Russian assets.